Hi everybody, I hope you're doing well. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about why planks are so great and what you can do to make them safer and more effective. Because often in social media or in the news, if you see an article about getting a strong core, it'll often be accompanied by a picture of someone doing a plank on a ball or on a mountaintop, or there's plank challenges that happen. And I have to say, I am a member of the plank fan club. I think planks are really a great way to strengthen your core, but there's some common errors that can happen that can create some problems. So I just want to help you improve your technique with that. But before I do, I just want to say that if you're watching this on YouTube, to please consider subscribing to my channel so that you can have easy access to all of my videos where I'm sharing exercises, stretches, alignment tips, meditations, and more to help you on your journey towards discovering your best posture, moving with more ease and power, breathing more freely and joyfully, and balancing body and mind. Sharing what I've learned over my movement teaching career of 30 plus years is my passion. I teach one-on-one online movement classes weaving yoga, Pilates, dance, and functional, rehabilitative, mindful movement. And you can find more information about that on my website at tracyreneestafford.com if you like. So coming back to the plank, one of the reasons why it's such a great way to strengthen your core is that in a plank, your spine is in a relatively straight line. It's in a neutral position, so it can be very helpful for strengthening your posture. Now, strengthening your core by rounding your spine, by doing something like a crunch, or by doing back extensions, all of those are really great things, and I do them also, but planks have that functional ability where they really help you feel strong in your center with the spine quite straight. So it has that safety factor if you have spinal issues, and also it helps to improve your posture. But like I say, there's some common issues, and one of the things is that I want you to keep in mind that your spine is not perfectly straight, and it's not meant to be. We are meant to have a little bit of curvature in the lower back that goes inward, a little bit of curvature towards the rib cage, and that goes outward, and then a little bit of curvature in the neck. Okay, so the spine does have that S curve to it, and sometimes the curves get exaggerated in all sorts of ways. And so in general, we do want our spine to be straighter, but we don't want it to be perfectly straight. Okay, but like I say, the plank is going to help us with that. So what that means is I'm going to talk specifically about the lower back because it has that natural ability to arch, and like I say, it's meant to, for our posture, have a little bit of an arch. What can happen in a plank is that the spine can overarch and sink down, and we can start to feel pain in our lower back. And I just want to say now that pain is really your teacher. Okay, if you are experiencing pain, something needs to change. Okay, something. Maybe you need to change your technique. Maybe you need to make the exercise a little bit easier, more accessible. Something needs to change because we don't want to keep our body getting that pain signal. So use pain as a sign that you need to change something. Okay, so let's go to it now, and if you can, do this with me. Okay, so to get into a good plank, you want to start off in all fours position, and you're going to come down onto your forearms. Now, I want your shoulders to be pulled down away from your ears so that your neck is long. If you can, keep your eyes to the floor. So reaching through the crown of your head to keep your head in a neutral position, but I'm going to turn my head so it's easier to talk. Okay, so your shoulders are pulled down away from your ears, and I want you to push your forearms really strongly into the floor so that your shoulder blades are wide apart. Okay, so that you can feel that it's almost like you're squeezing a tennis ball in your armpit. Okay, so keep that really active, pushing into the floor, keeping the shoulders down and wide. Then I want you to bring your legs out to straight, and without changing anything, land your knees, okay? So the knees are down, and this is going to be our first plank variation. And what I want you to feel is that your hips are staying lifted a little bit in the air. You're not going to let your lower back sink. You're going to keep them lifted, and you're pushing your forearms firmly into the floor so that your shoulders are staying down and wide, and you want to feel the navel draw in. Okay, so that's where we're going to be going. Just take a little bit of a break, and I want us to review a little bit of the core that I did in a previous core video. I'll post a link to that in the comments if you haven't done that first core video, but I'll just quickly review it now. I want you to come onto your back, and just notice when you're lying on your back, either with your legs bent or straight, whatever's more comfortable, you should notice that there's a little bit of space in your lower back. Okay, and that's, again, that's natural. We're meant to have that curve there. Sometimes it's too much curve, sometimes it's too little, so we might have to analyze that, but there is a little bit of space naturally. But what I want to do for this exercise and for the plank to make it a little bit more safer is I want us to flatten that space. And how I want you to do it is really important. Bring your thumbs onto your bottom ribs and bring your pinky fingers onto your hip bones, and then the fingers across the abdomen. And on a breath out, I want you to draw your ribs and your hip bones closer towards each other. Okay, so your bottom ribs are gonna, on a breath out, pull down, and the hip bones are gonna pull a little bit up, and the navel is gonna go down towards the spine. So the abdominals are drawing in, and this should flatten your back into the floor so that there's no space there anymore. You know, when you do this movement, I don't want you to grip your hips or your glutes, okay? So they might be working a little bit, but in general, the primary action, if you can just do it again, come back to neutral. Your primary action is you're gonna draw your ribs down, you're gonna draw your hip bones up, pull your navel into your spine, so your back is flat, and the pelvis is very passive, okay? It's very secondary. Primary working is the navel to the spine and the ribs drawing in, okay? So we're gonna repeat, I want you to get a good feel for what that seems like in your body, because we're going to repeat that in the plank, okay? So I want you to come back into your all fours position, come onto your forearms and pulling your shoulders down, pulling your shoulders wide apart by pushing your forearms into the floor, then bringing your legs out to straight and landing your knees, okay? So we've got the hips lifted, so our back is relatively straight like a table, but I want you to add that feeling of drawing the navel in and slightly tilting the pelvis down. So if you had a tail on your tail would be pointing down towards the floor. Okay, so again, we're not gonna be gripping the hips or the glutes to make that happen. I want you to draw your bottom ribs in, draw your navel to your spine, and that produces the tilting of the pelvis. Okay, and then we're just gonna stay here and breathe. Okay, and when you're breathing, I want you to keep the abdominals engaged. So instead of letting the abdominals move as you breathe in and out, keep your navel pressed firmly up against your spine and breathe more into the sides of the ribs. So when you breathe in, the ribs are widening open. When you breathe out, they're closing like an accordion is opening and closing. Okay, so then just come back and have a rest. Maybe sit back onto your heels in a child's pose. Now, when you're doing that plank, it might feel like and it might look like your back is slightly rounded, okay? And when I was curling the tailbone down, that there's a little bit of rounded, and that is a safer position. And I would say, especially if you do have any kind of compression in your lower back already, in order to really stay away from pain, because we don't want that, you may need to really round your back a lot. and really curl the pelvis down in order to have the lower back feel like it's not getting pinched. And I want to say here, round it as much as you need to be out of pain. And if you are, then it really just needs to be slightly tilted under. It can be quite small, so you don't need to exaggerate that. But like I say, you want to pull in as much as you need to so that there's no sensation of pinching through the lower back. Okay, so that's your first plank variation. If that's going really well, we'll work on some ways to challenge that. But I already felt the effort in that plank exercise. So if you did too, that's great. If you're doing your technique really well, it's going to be really effective. So feel free to stay at that level. However, if you do want to work on progression, we'll just practice that now. And come back into your forearm position where your shoulders are pulled down, your shoulders are pulled wide apart, and you're squeezing something in your armpit. Bring your legs out to straight, lower your knees, and then create that slight flattening of your back. So you're drawing your ribs in, your tailbone is slightly curling down, you're pulling your navel to your spine, you're breathing, okay, feeling the ribs wide and open and close like an accordion. Then, to make this more difficult, we're gonna curl the toes underneath, and I want you to, on a breath out, pull your navel to your spine even more so it's really strong, and as you breathe out, you lift one knee off the floor, and then inhale to lower it. And then breathe out and lift the other knee off the floor, and inhale to lower, and so on. Now, as you're doing this, you're breathing out so that you can really focus on pulling your navel to your spine so that nothing changes. You don't want your hips to move or your back to drop or anything like that. You can always check by bringing yourself up against a mirror or using the camera on your phone to be able to see that everything is staying really still. And then of course, if that's going really well, on a breath out, you lift both knees, and as you breathe in, they lower. And again, you want to keep the navel to the spine, nothing changes. You want to keep your shoulders down so you're not over tensing in the upper body, you're really using your core. Okay, and then again, just have a little bit of a break. You can sit back onto your heels, stretch your arms out, go from side to side. Okay, so that's another safe way, and again, just keep paying attention to how it's feeling in your body while you're doing the exercise and afterwards, just to make sure that you haven't created some sort of compression in your back. So that being said, we'll just do one more level if you want to take this further. This is already a lot. I was really working a lot, so don't feel pressure to go any further. But if you've been practicing your planks for a while and you want to take it further, you're going to come back into your position, shoulders pulled down and wide, legs out straight, land the knees. Always land your knees first to get a moment where you can just check in that you have good technique, okay? So you've got your shoulders down and wide, your ribs are in, your pelvis is in that very slight tilt by drawing your navel in, not by gripping your hips. And then as you breathe out, you're gonna lift both knees and keep them lifted. Okay, you wanna still be able to breathe. You wanna be able to make sure nothing's changed. You've kept your navel to your spine. And the final thing that I'll put out here is that if you wanna take it further, as you breathe out, you pull your navel to your spine even more and float one foot off the floor and breathe into lower and lift the other foot off the floor and breathe into lower, and so on. And again, nothing changes. So you don't want your back to sink. It's really easy for that to happen here, so you have to be paying very good attention. And the leg lifts very small. If it lifts too high, it's impossible not to move your back. So just let it float off the floor. Okay, and then gently land your knees. You can rest your back, come down. Okay, so that should keep you busy for a while. But how this can really work into our day-to-day life is, as I say, we do want to make our spine in general straighter. So whether you're sitting or standing, like I say, there should be a little bit of curvature in the lower back, not a lot, but a little bit there. But what you can do when you're standing, when you're working at your desk,
is have that same sensation that you want to draw your bottom ribs in, you want to draw your hip bones up a little bit and draw your navel towards your spine. And you should be able to do this without really changing much in your back, okay? Very small motion of drawing the ribs in, drawing the hips in, drawing the navel in, almost invisible so that the back is straighter and that it has a feeling of being more contained in the front, and we're not letting it go and letting the abdominals do a lot of relaxing through your day. I will say that belly breathing, letting the abdominals relax as you're breathing, is very good as a relaxation technique. If you're feeling really stressed, if you need help going to sleep, it's very helpful, and I do it often. But when you're active, when you're standing, moving about, even if you're at your desk for a long period of time, you want to have a bit more sense of this all being contained, and instead breathing into the bottom of your ribs and letting them open and close like an accordion, and being able to just maintain a little bit of tone here. Okay, so I hope that is fun and interesting and challenging, and that you've learned something. And so please feel free to check out any of my other tutorials that can give you some tips on how to manage and improve your posture and your strength and your energy level, and enjoy. Thanks very much for watching. Be well.